What's up, y'all? Let's get that out of the frame. Today's the 30th. It's the 30th of January 2026. Okay. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is our main side, one of the 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company, where we allow the human body to work, and we do it through clothing. The only thing physically placed on our bodies is what we really address, because everything and anything we do in our lives, we have to do it within clothing if we're doing it within clothing. Good boy. Here's Dante, my standard poodle. We do things with poodles. We'll get into it, okay? 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company. Allowing the body to work, the human body has a center line. It just does, okay? The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw stabilizes the entire body. This video is titled Scar Tissue Around the Larynx. Okay, the larynx is the voice box of the human being. Our ability to speak, we have what's called vocal cords, okay, flesh, that we project air across and they vibrate, okay. We're not going to explain it all perfectly technical in this. We're not going to explain it all perfectly technical, okay. But discussing what's really happening is what we will be doing here, okay, because Earth has a center of gravity and it has to mesh with our body's center line. So if we're not centered and vertical and just operating as a human being with opposing sides to the body, opposing activation of musculature, opposing rotations, internal versus external, opposing, what do we want to say? Everything in the body that there's 2 sides to, right? Opposition in all things. 2 feet. Opposing the center line of the human being, gripping arches inward, and that's how we stay vertical. Okay. Good boy. Good. Oh, I love him. He just got a shower. I just showered him, okay? And so we've got a towel for him, and if he stays on it, that's going to be the best case scenario right now out here. Basically immediately after his shower, okay? Just a couple hours after. So there you go. Good dog. The human body is something we discuss the anatomy of in depth under our clothing company. We're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We are a clothing company for anything that clothes the human being. God clothes the fields with grass. We clothe our bodies with tops and pants and shoes and socks and hats and glasses and jewelry and gloves. Anything, a scarf, whatever it is. It's got to be placed on the body proper, at the joints of the body part with the joints of the material of the clothing, at the seams of the body part with the seams of the material of clothing. Clothing just has to fit our bodies correct. Our bodies just have to be able to work, okay? Otherwise they won't. There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it. No new information, nothing I could take credit for. So don't believe me. Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, in this for life to lead it. Don't believe anyone at In the Image Clothing Company's team, including our poodles. Okay, we will have many poodles as time progresses. Don't believe us because truth is truth. Things have to be there first before you can have an opinion on them. And you have to be there before you could believe how you got there. Okay, so God designed our bodies. God had to first look like us to design our bodies in his image. There's only one way they work. Bones are only shaped the way that they are. They're only the length that they are. Muscles connect to bones through tendons, and they just pull directly in line. The human body only pulls, even in what seems like a push. Okay, muscles on the backside of a function pulling. The human body only pulls, as the video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. So the body works by stabilizing, okay? 2 sides pulling against the center or the neutral, okay? Like us standing and either leaning left or leaning right from the neutral, leaning forward or leaning back from the neutral, but then the wrist coming up or coming down from the neutral, the pinky finger straight out the outside of the forearm, that's the neutral wrist, okay? The elbows, keeping elbows at the natural waist, a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, and also just something we have to do. The natural waist is above the hip bones, but below the lowest ribs, where there's no bones on the side of our bodies until we get to the center line of the spine, where we bend side to side. Our elbows at our natural waist is our shoulders at their neutral height. Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms within the human body's functioning, within the functioning of the dogs as well, okay? Look at him. Good boy. Curled up like a little dragon. Okay. We talked about eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, everything we do. It's not just about clothing. Clothing's just the only thing physically placed on us, so it really truly is, even if I didn't have a clothing company, okay, the only fix to human beings' physical problems, at least the physical problems we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company. We're just trying to work around our clothing, and if it's in our way. We get into chronic patterning. Scar tissue builds up in the body. Bone spurs build up in the body. And that's really what we do here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, is we show, discuss, give information, a lot of free modifications in clothing on how to get out of chronic patterning in the body, okay, to allow our bodies to work. It's impossible to train the human being to get it to do anything. It's just connected the way that it is. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto the rock and space that we call Earth that God designed for us. Its center line meshes with Earth's center of gravity. The bones only track in line and the muscles only pull in line anyway, okay? And so there's only one way it works. This is what I'm saying about the elbow at the natural waist. It's connected to the shoulder through the immovable bone of the upper arm bone, or the humerus. So that's the shoulder at the neutral height. The elbow at the natural waist. But our clothing is placed on us, and it's affected by gravity just as much as our bodies are, okay? So clothing has to stay centered. It has to fit correct, where we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company. It's not our opinions, but there's a universal human design, and so it's got to sit on top of the skeletal frame of the human being, the only way the skeletal frame of the human being is shaped. And it needs to be made from 100% natural materials in all the ways we can, because we live in an unnatural, modern man-made world, placed onto God's natural earth. We deal with things as human beings in modern 2026 and going forth that human beings never had to deal with in the past. It couldn't have even possibly happened. These things weren't even invented yet. Artificial, synthetic, and unnatural. Synthetic, artificial, and unnatural. Synonyms with fake, okay? Things in our food, things in our clothing, things in the things that we interact with in life, in all aspects of life. So I stand out here and I scream about it sometimes, okay? We do a lot under the gift of video under In the Image Clothing Company, and always will, under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. But, you know, things like stretch and clothing, it goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles work. Muscles have fibers that fire, they pull together, contract, that's all they do. There's opposing muscles, and so we think we're pushing sometimes, maybe, but we're just pulling muscles to extend a hinge. So stretch goes the opposite direction of the body working. Stretching the body is damaging. There's two sides to it opposing the center. They need to evenly pull in or contract to keep us standing up. Even just breathing, it takes the entire body to some degree to stabilize in every single breath we take. Okay. The ribs are expanding and contracting in 360 degrees all the way around, even when you're sleeping. Okay, your body's still activated. The musculature, the human body can only ever work activated as a whole. It's all there. It's all got a different or individual role to play. No compensation can be had for part of the body not functioning. Now, you've got an amputation, let's say, a deformity, major surgery, or birth defect, anything that sets your body apart a little bit or quite a bit. We're all different where we are. We need to, though, do everything we can in our own individualistic situations to get as close as we can to the universal human design because of gravity and its centered pull, because of the human body's center line that has immovable bone like the sternum in the front, and then in the rear there's the vertebrae of the spine that are right in the center as well, and the ribs are connecting to those bones on both front and back and wrapping around our bodies. It's things like this. We have to do all we can to stay centered. There's no opinion. Okay, you can't be ambidextrous in imbalanced clothing. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Your clothing's physically placed on you, okay? It's got to stay centered. Now, this video's title, okay? scar tissue around the larynx. You hear people clearing their throat. Why do people clear their throat? Well, collar seams. I'm not joking, okay? I'm not joking. Just, if you don't know who In The Image Clothing Company is, what In The Image Clothing Company is, you might not understand what we're really doing here. But I'm not making an exaggeration when I say the phrase, it truly is the only fix to human beings' physical problems. Clothing? It's the only thing physically placed onto our physical bodies. You know, I mean, seen with context, and we give it. We have deep, thorough explanations on things you couldn't possibly dispute what we say, because we couldn't possibly decide what we say if it's true. Truth is apart from all of us. It's God, the same yesterday, today, and forever. The truth is, there's musculature opposing the center line of the neck, okay? What really is neck pain is a video I filmed down in beautiful St. George, Utah in November of 2025, okay? Dante and I will move down to St. George, Utah. We'll set up base camp for life for In The Image Clothing Company. It's the southernmost part of Utah, about 3.5 hours south drive from here, Utah County. But we live up Utah, as In The Image Clothing Company, a lot in nature, okay? In-person events, poodle parade events, under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, another one of our fours. You can bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size. Do not come for us, okay, for In The Image Clothing Company's team. Come for the events. Come for the reasons we're doing them. Come for you to have a good time and your dogs to have a good time. We'll get human beings into nature and dogs into nature. Do things for the environment with specific subcategory of poodle parade events like Clean the Creek or Rid the Rubbish poodle parade events. Similar things like this, okay? So we're going to do a lot of cool things as time progresses. On In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, we do the same thing for dogs that we do for human beings. We label it letting dogs stay natural. It's just the same as allowing the body to work on In The Image Clothing Company's main side. But our information applies to all dogs and a lot of animals across the earth. We specialize in purebred standard poodles. We will be breeding them to show how to properly breed purebred dogs and advocating for doing that for the health of dogs, to keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes, and to teach how to be good owners of dogs, and just a lot of good advocation for ownership of a canine, okay, an animal, a dog, anything really though, right, that it could apply to, the information we give. But yeah, holding leashes naturally so we don't alter our bodies as the owners, okay? And collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, slip leads. I've got a slip lead here just in case, but Dante's a good dog, okay? But being a good owner, it's good to be prepared. These things need to be centered on the dogs, just like our human being clothing. So keeping collars centered is a huge focus, okay? A collar seam is just anything, really. The way that we label it, a collar seam under In The Image Clothing Company, anything discrepant or different in the collar of our top. There needs to be an even circular or circumference nature to the collar of our top sitting around our neck. We've got musculature opposing the center line of the neck. We've got a trachea. We've got an esophagus. We've got the voice box. We've got the spine. We've got a lot going on in the neck, okay? Collar seams means the neck is imbalanced. If the neck is imbalanced, it can't support the head. The natural head position or the neutral head position, a video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. The head's just a big ball of weight on top of the body, okay? The highest point when we're standing with our arms down on our sides, at least, on Earth's gravity, okay? The fingertips are the highest point from the toes, really, when we reach above our head. But just standing in life, our head's just above everything else, and our neck is supporting it. The musculature of our neck goes through the collar of our top. If the collar of our top's imbalanced, the musculature of our neck is imbalanced, then our head is imbalanced, and then our shoulder is also altered. Okay. The jaw is the shoulder. A video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. We put a lot of focus on the jaw. The importance of even jaw musculature. The importance of the corners of the mouth. The importance of small utensils. Workouts don't help the jaw. Okay, some videos here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company about the jaw. It stabilizes the entire body. The jaw is the ears, but the jaw is the shoulder. Okay. Just the same as how the hand is the shoulder when we lock it out at the elbow. They do the exact same thing. And the foot is the hip when we lock it out at the knee. They do the exact same thing. Okay. The neck, the larynx, is the Adam's apple Okay, in the center of your throat here, there's this like bump. It's more common on males than on females, okay? We just are different biologically. Regardless, though, there's just a voice box. That's how you're hearing sound when I'm speaking right now, is there's this vibration happening of flesh in the throat, okay? Right here in the center of the neck, at the trachea, okay? Right below the lower jawbone called the mandible, but above the collarbone's insertions to the sternum. Okay, right in the center there, there's the larynx. It's the voice box. It's how we make sound. We're just vibrating things like you pluck a guitar string. Wow, in the Image Clothing Company music. Another one of our fords where we do a lot of rhythm and poetry, spoken word, lyricism, singing, guitar playing, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ, as we are under In the Image Clothing Company, with the messages, okay? We do a lot of discussing the sizing and setup of guitar as well, though, to not alter the neutral wrist, okay, straight out from that pinky finger, like I was saying, from the outside of the forearm, but then also the hand arches, the natural rounding in our hands that correlates with the arches in our feet, and one can't be there without the other. If our feet are altered, our hands will be altered, and if our hands are altered, our feet will be altered, because the human body works all together, okay? So, fingernails and toenails, not just to do with guitar setups or guitar playing, but in every aspect of life, our fingernails and our toenails need to be fully to the tips of the fingers and toes. God gave them to us to back and support the fingers and toes. If we cut them relatively flat on the tips, then we don't roll out of the neutral position of the wrist and of the foot arches, grippedness, okay? The neutral ankle traveling up through the whole body, okay? So you pluck a guitar string and it's just vibrating, okay? And you're hearing the vibrations. That's how it works, okay? Blunt, bold, raw, and real. What you're also hearing probably is the cars driving by, as you are. In the Image Clothing Company, we do it as we do it because we couldn't do it any other way. Wow. Besides authentic is the point. However we're doing it is how we're doing it, and we couldn't do it any other way. Unless we were doing it that way, then that's the way we'd be doing it, and we couldn't do it any other way besides that unless we did. Anyway, truth is truth. What I'm saying is, this is natural. There's ducks flying. Dante's just sleeping. The larynx vibrates, okay? The voice box vibrates. Well, we've got the, there's cartilage here is the point, okay? Scar tissue around the larynx, there's cartilage here. We discussed the nose, the importance of even nostrils, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, that's a video. The importance of even ears, okay? The natural earlobe position. The ears are the jaw, essentially, and the nose is in the center line of the body, okay? So these things have to be unaltered. Cartilage is a different material than muscle, it's a different material than bone. It's the same thing that's between the bones, okay? So they don't wear out. It's cushioning between the bones. Bones connect to each other through ligaments, and then between the ends of the bones where they connect and actually have the motion, there's a thin layer of cushioning called cartilage. It's the same material type that your nose is made out of, and your ears are made out of, and your larynx has this like covering over the front. It's cartilage, okay? We call it an Adam's apple sometimes, okay? You can call it the little bump on the throat of your neck, whatever you call it, just so that you can see what I'm talking about. Right here in the neck, there's this bump on the front of the trachea, okay? Cartilage. It's protection. Cartilage is a pretty tough material. That's why it's between the bones to cushion them. The bones are just like sticks. They don't move by themselves, they just move where they connect to other bones. And if they were touching directly, they just wear each other out. So the cartilage is some pretty tough material. You know, when we get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue in the body, a lot of it is in the nose and it's in the ears, okay? The ears don't allow the jaw to be in its natural position if the cartilage in the ears are altered. The importance of not pushing or pulling on the ears is a video here under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company. Dante and I filmed at beautiful Utah Lake, okay, here in Utah County. Yeah, okay. cartilage. It's a pretty tough material, and it's in the throat here. You know what else we have in the throat here? Can I do this? I'm not asking anymore. I'm doing it. Watch this. You see these muscles coming down the neck of mine? I'm in a very, like flexed to the left knee position here, but I show it like this. The jaw is the shoulder. Look at the musculature, okay, going through the collar of the top, but then also all down along the side of the larynx and just, down through the neck, underneath the jaw. There's a lot of muscles. And there's these little muscles and, tendons coming right next to the larynx, right next to the trachea, right next to the cartilage protecting the larynx, here in the throat, okay? If you can see them. That's why I got forward like this more than I was. And so that's musculature, that's supporting the head. We need even musculature left and right on the body. The point with the jaw being the shoulder, well, is that it's directly connected. But why we discuss it under In the Image Clothing Company so much like that, well, that's just how it is, but why we put the focus on it is what I'm saying, is because it's going through the collar of our top, the musculature of our jaw. The jaw plays a lot of functions. The jaw stabilizes the entire body. The jaw is our eating, it's our breathing, and it's our speaking. Anything else you could say the jaw does, it does a lot of functions, okay? The teeth are just directly in the lower jawbone. There's a lot the jaw does, okay? The jaw's not going to be able to do anything properly if there's an imbalanced collar placed around it. So In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, that's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast even, okay? Another one of our fourths. In the Image Clothing Company podcast, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. You don't have to believe in anything, but we're all human beings. We're all the same thing, placed on the same earth, designed by the same God. You don't have to be religious. But we're on episode 203 as of today's date, the 30th. Today's the 30th of January, 2026. As far as I'm aware, yesterday was the 29th. I think there's at least 30 days in January. I didn't check the date today, but I know yesterday was the 29th of January, 2026. Yeah, we just have deep discussions on life. It's just deep insights on what's going on, because even if you don't believe in anything, life's still what it is. And then even if you believe in things, that doesn't change what life is. We don't get to decide, I don't get to try to tell you how it is because I chose and I want you to be on board with me. But God is God. Jesus Christ truly is there and here and now and always, ever present. You don't have to believe anything. Please don't. You don't believe in anything and truth surfaces, okay? Put all the beliefs aside and what remains, something has to, we call it truth, okay? God is the truth, the thing that never changes. So, anyway, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, but there are certain episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast that were important enough for me to make them titles like that. In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. Okay, those are some episode titles of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We discuss these things on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here as well. But it doesn't matter what clothing designs will ever look like or ever did look like in the past. If the collar of our top isn't centered, our neck isn't centered. That means our jaw isn't centered with the musculature of the jaw going through the neck. It is the neck. Musculature of the jaw, okay? I like that question. What is the neck, right? There's a video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here titled What Yawning Really Is, because it's not what a lot of people think, okay? The reason we yawn, the reason dogs yawn, placing an imbalanced collar on dogs, they'll be yawning, okay? It's the jaw musculature. Trying to straighten out your collar by yawning, okay? Trying to straighten out your feet by yawning. Trying to yawn your heels back onto the ground if you're wearing heels on shoes. This is the truth about yawning, don't believe me, okay? But I discussed it thoroughly in that video. What yawning really is under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, you're trying to yawn your ear cartilage out of the way. If you've placed things in your ears in modern day when we have the technology that, sometimes we do that. I did that for years. I've had to deal with the repercussions. Here's some geese, 5 geese. They're flying, okay? cartilage in the larynx. It's over top the larynx. It's protection. You know, it is. That's what it's for. Because, you know, if you were to get hit in the throat, poof, you need some protection for your trachea, you know, the tube in the neck we breathe through. Yeah. But also the larynx, the voice box, it needs some protection. That's really what the ears are. They're just protection for the whole of the ear canal, which is just the gap between the rear of the lower jawbone and then the base of the skull back there where the upper end of the sternocleidomastoid is. Okay, a muscle we discuss often under In the Image Clothing Company, just barely clearing that lower jawbone. So, yeah, cartilage, it's a protector, okay? Protection between bones, protection over the whole of our ear canal, protection around the holes of our nostrils, protection over the larynx. It's protection. It's a tough material, but it still has some give to it. Okay. Cartilage. Scar tissue around the larynx. You know, why do people clear their throat? It's the same question as, well, same type of question as what yawning really is, you know, or what really is yawning. But the video's title is What Yawning Really Is. It was an explanation to the question of what yawning really is. Well, what really is clearing your throat, right? What really is neck pain? I like to ask these questions. I like to title videos under In the Image Clothing Company as questions we can ask so we can answer them. Okay, we title things very intentionally. We spiderweb things together, referencing things we've done and other things we do so you can get to it under our 5-word company name, In the Image Clothing Company. 2 more geese. Okay? Geese. What does it mean to clear your throat? Well, you know, scar tissue around the larynx. You just got these muscles. See the muscles? You saw the muscles. You probably saw the muscles. I tried to show you the muscles around my larynx that are just, you know, playing into the motion of the jaw, supporting the rib cage, supporting the head, you know, all the things they do, all the muscles in the neck, and there's a lot of muscles in the neck, and they're around the larynx, okay? And those little muscles you can see, you know, tendons and everything going on right next to the Adam's apple, the larynx, the cartilage covering the larynx, okay? They're right next to it. So this is the thing, oversized clothing imbalances of any kind in clothing, okay? Ropes introduced to the body, shoelaces, drawstrings, anything. One side of the thing tied over the other side of the thing, okay, on the body. It'll just rotate the body. There's a center line of the body. There's a center line to the body. It meshes with Earth's center of gravity or it doesn't, and then our bodies are damaged. That in itself just builds up chronic patterning, just not being centered over Earth's gravity for any reason. Okay, amputation, hey, guess what? Prosthetic limb, gravity, you know, just evening out the weight on each side of our bodies. That's an important thing to do. Scar tissue around the larynx. Well, if we've got an oversized top, okay, oversized tops and the collarbone, a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Internal rotation from the shoulder to the foot, a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Lifting the right side of the body, a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Okay, we live in a right-handed world. 85% give or take of human beings are right-handed. Patterning. Okay, the right side gets dropped lower, farther away from the body's center line, and more externally rotated with the rotations, okay? From the neutrals, we have internal rotation or external rotation from the fingertips up to the elbows in those 2 bones, the radius and ulna in the forearm. We lock the hand out at the shoulder by extending the elbow, by pulling muscles, by the way. Pulling the triceps, we extend the elbow. We don't push, okay? It doesn't happen mechanically. The human body is just mechanics. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, Dante and I filmed. But the hand becomes the shoulder, and then we've got internal rotation or external rotation from the neutral in the entire arm. The foot to the knee. There's 2 bones in the lower leg, a tibia and a fibula. We've got internal rotation or external rotation from the neutral pinky toe straight forward, okay? The pinky toes and the pinky fingers, a video Dante and I filmed and placed here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. They are the neutrals, okay? We lock the foot out from the hip at the knee by extending the knee joint. The foot becomes the knee. No, well, kind of, but it was already. The foot becomes the hip, though, when the knee locks out straight. And then we've got internal rotation or external rotation in the entire leg, from the pinky toe being the neutral straight forward. Okay, different length toes, by the way. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is the only way the top of the human feet are shaped. There's a tractor driving through here. That's fine. I just don't really know exactly whose property this is, but it's public and open right here, you know, just right off the side of this dirt road. And they're putting houses in here, so I just didn't expect a tractor to be driving through, but Dante's still just curled up and sleeping through it. That's funny. Here comes another little tractor behind him too. Tractor type thing. Anyway, if it's gonna be this loud the whole time, we might have to figure something else out location-wise for the rest of this. But the larynx, okay, scar tissue around the larynx. I don't know if he's gonna come talk to me or what, or if he's just doing work or what. I don't know what's going on. Look at Dante, man. The natural mobility in Dante, man. Letting dogs stay natural under In the Image Clothing Company poodles, I'm telling you. Look at our poodles to see the truth of what we do. Look at our team members under In the Image Clothing Company, including me, Evan Strong, the founder, to see the truth of what we do with allowing the body to work. Okay, letting dogs stay natural. There you go. In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Tractor noise, man. It's fine, you know. We'll get to it deeper, okay? Scar tissue around the larynx, but we'll wait to where the tractor's not quite as loud. In the microphone here. It's still noisy where it is. Blunt, bold, raw, and real In the Image Clothing Company. It's just another date-marked documentation. Okay, the 30th of January, 2026. It's just to show congruency. It's just to give free information to human beings across the entire planet on how to allow their bodies to work in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, okay? Scar tissue can build up in places of the body if the body's not centered, if the body's not working normally, naturally or neutrally, okay? You notice people sometimes they'll like move their nose around like this, you know? It's like, why are you doing that? Because your nose isn't in the center and you're trying to get it to be by moving the musculature of your face to move your nose cartilage to try to get into the center. Why would your nose cartilage not be centered? Oversized clothing. Imbalances of any kind in clothing. Ropes on the body, like shoelaces or drawstrings or anything like that, okay? There's no opinion. Your body's gonna be centered. It has to be. It would have to be. It just would be. If you never placed any clothing on it, you're standing on Earth's gravity. You'd have to just stay centered to oppose Earth's center gravity pull. But if you put clothing on your body that pulls on your body because gravity's pulling on your clothing as much as it's pulling on your body, and just being in a right-handed world as well, okay, the right side of our body just gets pulled away from the center line, okay, more externally rotated, the muscles elongated, okay, the muscles are, as in all the muscles on the side of the body that's farther from the center line than the other side. That's the only way it can get farther from the center line is if the muscles are pulled longer on that side than the other side, okay? I love Dante so much. One day Dante will die. So will I, okay? We will all die. Contemplate death. An episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Seen with context, though, right? Before you contemplate death, know what it is. So the larynx, right? If we have our face being pulled off on one side, we get more cartilage on the ear on one side than the other side. In a right-handed world, it'll be the right side. If we have our face being pulled off to one side, okay, we'll get more cartilage on the nose on one side than the other side. If we have our bodies in any way being pulled off to one side more than the other side, okay, when there's a centered line to them, we're gonna have cartilage building up on one side more than the other side around the larynx, okay? I have to yell over the noise. I could film these videos anywhere, I understand, okay? We do it as we do it, for the reasons we do it, and there's reasons for this too, okay? It's as if you're just here with me and I'm just delivering information. But also it just shows how crazy life can be sometimes, you know? There's a lot of reasons, okay, why we do this, how we do this. Also, if you really want the information, you've got to kind of like peer through the noise, you know? You've got to glean from it. You got to really dig into it. You're not just going to sit here and casually listen to this if you have to really kind of listen closely to be able to, you know, drown out the surrounding sounds. So, if we've got cartilage building up on one side of the larynx from the very center line of our body more than the other side of our larynx, well, it's the same reason why people do the little nose sniffle. It's the same reason why people move their nose like that, like I was discussing, with the musculature of their face. It's because there's an imbalance, okay? I mean, unless you have mucus draining from your nose that you try to sniff back up into it, but even that in itself is almost certainly coming from an imbalance, unless it's just really cold outside or allergies. But yeah, if your body's not just centered and vertical over Earth's center of gravity, the tubes of the body aren't going to be centered and vertical. They go through the neck, okay, the trachea, the esophagus. The larynx is in the center. And so as we lean our head left to right, everything has to accommodate all the musculature in the neck, and we've got those muscles and tendons right on the side of the larynx. And if they're not able to just very nicely, clearly, very nicely clear the larynx, just barely, because they're very close to it. But if we've got the right side of our body being pulled away from the center line for years and years and years, shoelaces tied to the right side on both feet, twisting the entire body in right-handed knots when there's a center line to the body, okay? Right-handed knots versus left-handed knots, that video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. We need right-handed knots on the left side of our body and left-handed knots on the right side of our body because there's a center line to it. Okay, and Earth has a center of gravity. Okay, man-made things, you know, ropes. They've got to be centered on the body, okay? The slipped lap knot, rather than tying one side of a drawstring over the other around the waist, the slipped lap knot. Tie the tail end toward the center, and then you've got an even horizontal waist band when you put a rope around your waist to hold your pants up. Okay, but if you've got things tied to the right side of your body, or if you've got them tied to the left side of your body, but we live in a right-handed world, okay, even if you are left-handed, if the right side of your body is off to the right more, you've just got more of a gap, more of a pull on the musculature on the whole right side of your body. Dante is such a good dog. And so your larynx, that has the muscles just barely clearing it right on the sides of it, well, the cartilage protecting the larynx, okay, the Adam's apple, this bump on the throat, right on the front of the trachea, underneath the jawbone called the mandible, but above those collarbones insertions to the sternum. Anyway, just to be clear on what I'm saying, if there's cartilage that's not just centered and even, where you can't rotate your head left and right, centered and even, okay, you're not going to be able to have just natural even motion, even reaching your arm across your body. Okay, the right arm across to the left side of the body, the left arm across to the right side of the body. We talk about this, you know, reaching the right arm across the body. That's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here. The point is, though, if you've got an imbalance in the cartilage left to right on your Adam's apple or your trachea or your larynx cartilage, okay, here in the throat, then you're not even going to have your head be able to be centered over your body, okay? Because as we move our head left and right, all the musculature supporting the head, including any musculature right around the cartilage of the larynx, okay, scar tissue around the larynx, this video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, doesn't allow the head to even be centered above our bodies. That's affecting your feet. That's affecting your hands. The importance of the same size hands, okay? A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company here. Even that. Hands that are too different, in size, and if they're different at all, that's two different, really. There's a center line to the body, you know, and I'm still dealing with patterning myself, okay, from different sized hands. My right hand was so much bigger than my left for so many years of my life from imbalances, okay. And with the hand being the shoulder, and the shoulder being the jaw, and then the jaw being in the center line above the larynx, okay, and the musculature supporting the jaw and moving the jaw is right around the larynx cartilage, or yes. This is exactly what I mean, right? So we get scar tissue built up around the larynx because of reasons like this throughout the entire body. Different size hands, shoelace discrepancy, shoe tying discrepancy, drawstrings uneven, oversized tops, imbalances in things like rotated seams. In modern day, we've got rotated seams in clothing, okay? Clothing goes down a conveyor belt. It gets stitched in one direction, they flip the clothing around and they stitch it in the same direction on the other side. Or no matter how it is, if the seams just aren't even and they're just rotating at the ends where they stitch them down to the sides, side seams of our tops, side seams of our pants, seams in the armpits or on the insides of the sleeves of the arms of our tops, wherever it is in clothing, okay? Imbalances in clothing, man. Your body's not going to be centered. And as you're breathing, you know, as you're speaking, as you're just doing anything, the larynx is involved in your life. Even if you can't speak, you know, maybe you're mute, seriously, you just can't speak. Still cartilage there. If you've got this Adam's apple, even if you're a woman and you don't have like a pronounced Adam's apple the way that most men do, or even if you're a man and you don't have an Adam's apple pronounced quite to the degree that most men do, what I'm saying is there's cartilage there to protect the larynx, okay? And it's got to be centered. And you're going to get scar tissue built up on the right side of your larynx if your body's chronically imbalanced to the right. If you're right-handed, and just really if you live in a right-handed world, if you've got a collar seam on your upper left side of your top and it just pulls on your neck, so the right side of your neck is just so much more opened, you know, which is where it almost always is, by the way, a collar seam. Just about in every case, if it's on one side or the other, it's going to be on the upper left side of clothing. Yeah, it's just how it is. I didn't do it, you know. You can look around and figure it out yourself. Don't believe me on anything, ever, at all. But why you're clearing your throat is the same reason why you're trying to move your nose off to the side. You're trying to move your nose back to the center when it's pushed off or pulled off or scar tissued off or excessive cartilage built up off to the side, okay? You're trying to get your nose centered by moving it like this with the musculature of your face. That sure is quite the beeping that's happening from that vehicle over there, okay? That's the same reason you're clearing your throat, though, is because if you have scar tissue in the way, if you just have built up cartilage more on one side than the other, imbalanced in any way, I mean, even just having forward posture, you know, with your head not sitting above your body with the natural curve in the spine, a video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, the natural curve in the spine, you know, you're going to build up just excess cartilage grown in a way that's not normal, natural or neutral, okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. And so, yeah, if you've got cartilage there around the larynx, you're going to just be like doing that throat clearing sound to try to get your throat to be in a normal position so that it can vibrate the vocal cords and make sound before you speak. You know, we discussed sleeping, man, and sleeping without a pillow. If you want to stand vertical in daily life, you can't sleep with a pillow under your head, okay, for like 8 hours a night, pushing your pillow. Well, it's not pushing your pillow is pushing your head forward. Then you wake up and try to stand with your head vertical. It's not going to happen, okay? Sleep with no pillow. Don't let me tell you what to do, but sleep with no pillow. You have to if you want a neutral spine. But you also have to have your clothing fitting you correct. You know, tags in your clothing, it's already going to just push your spine out of its neutral position. Tags didn't even exist in clothing just a few decades ago or tens of years ago from today's date back, the 30th of January 2026. Tags just cause a physical gap, changing the body's only working position and or don't allow musculature to activate, then the body's damaged. Trying to compensate, but it can't. Everything's got its own role to play. So one of our 2 prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body, in addition to just where clothing sits baseline on every body who has one, or everyone who has a body, every human being, okay, universal human design, it only works how it does. In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, and then removing all tags from clothing. Those are our 2 prerequisites as of today's date, okay, the 30th of January, 2026. Yeah, I mean, that'll cause scar tissue in your larynx, cartilage, in your, Adam's apple, or just excess cartilage grown in a way that's just trying to work around a tag in the rear of your top. It just changes the position of your neck. Okay, what neck pain really is? Well, tags in the rear of the collar of your top. Okay, that'll do it. It's just a physical gap. It's like you've got a leaf stuck between your clothing and your body, Airplane, noise. I get it. Anyway, this is what's really happening. This is why people clear their throat. Well, one of the reasons. I mean, we really get into the... yes. This is one of the reasons. But where it's coming from is oversized clothing. It's pulling on your neck. Okay? Tops have edge seams. They need to, actually. That's a big point. They need to. And the edge seams need to sit right at the edges of our shoulders as close as we can get, just because that's where the 3 bones of our shoulders meet. The upper arm bone or humerus, the collarbone or clavicle, and the shoulder blade or scapula, they meet right at the edge of the shoulder. That's what the shoulder edge is. It's 3 end points of bone. That's where the seams need to be. So if we've got oversized tops, it's just pulling down on our neck. Okay? And then you'll just have imbalances in the cartilage growth of your larynx. Okay? I know that it's not technically called larynx cartilage, but it's the cartilage protecting the larynx, just so you can see what I mean, because you can't speak loud and bold and project your voice, which is natural and healthy for the lungs to really contract and push the carbon dioxide, I guess, right, technically over the voice box or larynx. But it's also just healthy for the vocal cords or the larynx itself to vibrate, project, and resonate strongly, okay? Not excessively loud. Right now I'm borderline excessively loud because I'm really just trying to make sure that you can hear me at least decently well, okay, fairly well, over all the noise that I didn't expect with the tractor beeping and driving and things, right? That's probably not a tractor, but the other one was. This thing, though, is the thing that's beeping quite a bit. Anyway, what I'm saying is, it's good to be able to project your voice. It's healthy for it, to actually speak full and resonant. You're not going to be able to do it if it's trying to vibrate, the voice box, the vocal cords, the larynx, and in front of it, it's got this cartilage that's just barely being cleared by the musculature coming down from the jaw to the rib cage, really, that area, at least right on the sides of the trachea. If this musculature, the tendons, and just all the things in the neck that are there supporting the head, moving the jaw, okay, there's diaphragms in the neck. Anyway, all this going on in the neck, if it's not allowed to just be centered because you've got the only thing physically placed on you, clothing, imbalanced in any way, just pulling on your body, you're going to build up scar tissue around your larynx, and you're not going to be able to be speaking very well. So you'll clear your throat to try to get the cartilage out of the way, or the scar tissue, however it's built up wherever in the neck, out of the way. That's why you're clearing your throat. There's something in your way, and clearing your throat, the way that you do that sound thing, if you do, that's not going to change anything. You have to actually break up the cartilage, man. You just, be gentle, be careful. What I'm saying is we just need even cartilage in the larynx. But why wouldn't it be? The true answer is clothing. That's the point. That's the focus. That's the reason. That's the reason for the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, is to allow the body to work. It's only about clothing for the sake of the human body. As of today's date, over 16 months into the founding of In The Image Clothing Company, we still don't have any clothing to sell for human beings. We still don't have any dog products to sell for dogs. We have a lot of free modifications in clothing that you can do. We give a lot of free information on how to allow your body to work. We'll have good clothing, okay, under In The Image Clothing Company. I mean, we are a clothing company, and that's something we will always have once we do, okay? But you just have to keep your collars centered. The importance of snug collars, a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. This is the same for the dogs as well. Snug collars, centered collars, light, minimal, not altering the body, or it alters the entire body if it alters any of it. It's all connected. It's a kinetic chain, a mechanical machine, a human being. The airplane noise is back. Okay? Welcome. The distractions, because they're there where they're there, you know? I actually don't know where the airplane is. I don't see it. But I hear it. Okay, the importance of even sternocleidomastoid insertions. Yeah, all right. Yeah, short sleeves and the sternocleidomastoid. A couple of videos there under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here. Anyway, muscles in the neck, you know. There's a lot of muscles that make up the neck, and we've just got to be able to have them all be as even as we can. If you've got scar tissue around your larynx, you're not going to be able to speak very well. That's just the case. I couldn't speak very well for years. I couldn't project my voice, and you know, I try to speak and it just wouldn't come out very well or very clear or very loud at all. I've got a really deep voice. Okay? That's something I didn't understand too for a long time. I didn't realize my voice was as deep as it was, you know, growing up. And in order to actually fully resonate your voice, you've got to project it pretty well. It's got to be able to fully vibrate those vocal cords, or the larynx, okay? But if you've got imbalanced shoulders, right, the importance of even height shoulders, a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, collar seams, oversized tops, anything, but even from the feet up, you know, it'll affect your shoulders as well, okay? Yeah. The importance of zero drop shoes, a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. What I'm saying is, you're gonna get scar tissue built up around your larynx if your neck's not centered, if your head's not centered, if your jaw's not centered, if your tops don't fit you like a cage for your shoulders. Okay, tops are like a cage for the shoulders. That's how we discuss it here under In The Image Clothing Company. They need to just lock the shoulders in place. Okay, and then clothing needs to stay centered as well, because if you're twisting your body anywhere throughout it, you're gonna twist your neck, right? Your neck is 1/3 of your spine. The cervical spine is the spine of the neck, okay? The top uppermost third of the spine. And then you've got the thoracic spine and the lumbar spine below that. If the hips are twisted, the lower spine's twisted. It travels up and twists all the way to the base of the skull, where the cervical spine or the top of the spine or the top of the neck, all the same thing there, right? Insert to the head. If you twist your feet, comes up and twist your hips, twist your spine, twist your neck, okay, all the way up to your head. If your jaw's imbalanced, it'll twist your spine from the cervical spine down now to the bottom of your body, all the way down to your feet, really, okay? The point is, anything, different sized hands, oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing, anywhere, everywhere, from the feet to the head, from the fingertips to the feet. There's the cranes, this pair of cranes that's been flying by in videos here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, and dates before these ones, meaning this one. Okay, we date mark things. Cranes are big birds. They mate for life. I'm almost certain it's the same pair of cranes. They've flown through this video, meaning they've flown through here when I've been filming videos here quite a few times, like 4 times at least in the past couple weeks here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. We date mark things. Go check it out if you'd like. Out of any time in the day, man. We've been here similar times throughout each of the days we've been here the past few weeks, but yeah, that's cool. Okay, sirens, beeping, construction noise. Dante just sleeps, man, soundly and peacefully through this kind of stuff. I mean, his head's up, but he's just chilling. He's just relaxing, okay? Fire truck there. Anyway, the larynx has to be centered, okay? And yeah, it's coming from places you wouldn't expect. Seriously, from your feet and from your hands. So let's talk about where clothing sits. We talked about the edges of our top seams sitting right at the edges of our shoulders. Okay, the edge seams of those shoulders on our tops. The top seams of our shoulders, they need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. The shoulders just only ever work behind the head. Mechanically, that's just how they work. And the shoulders follow shoulder seams. So they need to just be able to be in a position where that can happen. Okay, pants for every body. Okay, this is the thing. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. You're just a human being. Pants need to be entirely above the hips, okay? At the natural waist, where we bend side to side at the spine. We can't bend side to side at the hips. It just doesn't happen without a foot coming off the ground. We keep our pant waistline slightly higher in the front than the rear, just to keep us neutral at the pelvis, okay? From posterior tucking to anteriorly rotating away from us. There's a neutral meshing with the bottoms of our feet, which is the surface of the planet. Okay, horizontal, which is perpendicular with the vertical pull of gravity. And that's the term zero drop, like I was saying earlier, in any brand of shoe. Okay, just flat on the bottom. Then you've got a neutral to pointing the toes, plantar flexion, or lifting the toes, which is dorsiflexion. And that travels up and meshes with the same neutral of the pelvis or the hip structure, okay? So with our pants slightly higher in the front, we just ensure or do what we can to ensure they don't fall any lower in the front than neutral, okay? Because our hips already bend in a way where they'd be going lower in the front if they were to bend, but we need to stay vertical on Earth's gravity. The body's got opposing bends. The ankles bend backward, the knees bend forward, the hips bend backward, the lower back bends forward, the mid back bends backward, and the upper back, which is the neck, bends forward. It's impossible to train posture. You've got a vertical pull of Earth's gravity that will never change its angle perpendicular to its Earth's surface. And then the human body just has to have mathematically even opposing bends to stay vertical, okay? The human body is just mechanics. Like we said, that video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, it's impossible to train the human body to get it to do anything. Bones are only the shape that they are, okay? Muscles only pull. There's a center line of the body meshing with Earth's center of gravity. Clothing's placed on the body, it'll damage the body. If it's not placed on the body, the only way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion here, so don't believe it. Find the truth within it though, and there you go, okay? So, it'll happen from anything. Heels on shoes, scar tissue in the larynx, okay? Around the larynx, and the cartilage around the larynx. The cartilage will just grow unevenly and imbalanced around the larynx, okay? Pant waistlines in incorrect locations and angles, there you go, okay? Scar tissue around the larynx. Shoulder seams sitting unevenly, okay? One in front and one in the rear or something, okay? Both in front of the body when the shoulders only ever work behind the head, okay? The scapulas, or the shoulder blades, they sit behind the rib cage. They'll never come in front. And just the way the shoulder works, pivoting up and in or down and out on the collarbone, there's only one way the human body could ever work. Scar tissue in the larynx. Scar tissue around the larynx, there you go. Built up from anything in the body, not centered. Okay, rotated clothing and Earth's gravity. A video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. Rotated clothing in any way, not just rotated seams in clothing, but just clothing that's rotating your body in any way that could possibly happen. Scar tissue around the larynx. And when I say scar tissue, it's just even cartilage. It's just built up, grown excessively, unnaturally. That's scar tissue. You know, bone spurs are scar tissue. Tendons are kind of almost scar tissue. It's kind of just a term, the way that people just kind of use arthritis as a term. It's just scar tissue. Really what it is just the body not being normal, you know? Things unnaturally or not normally growing, you know? Things that are supposed to be nice and smooth growing in a way to where they're not smooth anymore. Bones that are only supposed to be shaped the only way that they're supposed to be shaped, you know, universal human design way is what I mean. Having musculature pull on them through the tendons connecting to the bones, right? And in imbalance or misalignment, then the bone excessively grows. So this is what I mean by scar tissue around the larynx is just, yeah, misshapen cartilage around the larynx. It's just going to be hard to speak, okay? Or swallow, okay? We talk about the importance of not swallowing air, okay? Keeping air out of the digestive system. A video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company for human beings and dogs, any animals, really, okay? Just about, without knowing every animal, right? But human beings and dogs for sure. Like when we, yeah, shoot. There's so much to say. We'll cut this video for this video, but that's what I'm saying. It's going to be hard to swallow without swallowing air. If you can't swallow smoothly, as you swallow, the musculature around the larynx, around the scar tissue protecting the larynx, well, okay, not scar tissue protecting the larynx, but the cartilage protecting the larynx that we're talking about, where the scar tissue can get built up, or where the cartilage can just become unnaturally shaped. When we swallow, you're swallowing something you're drinking, swallowing something you're eating, swallowing saliva, you know, it's got to be able to happen centered. Okay, anyway, there you go. Today's the 30th of January, 2026. Goodbye. Thank you. Stick around for more if you'd like, or stop back in. And shout out to Dante being such a good dog. In the Image Clothing Company. Thank you.